Welcome to our Thanksgiving horror special, where tonight we'll be sharing 3 spine-chilling true stories. Before we begin, take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest videos, and share this experience with your friends. Now, sit back and prepare yourself for a night of unforgettable terror as we dive into our first story. It was a crisp November day, and the air was filled with the comforting aroma of roasted turkey, sweet potatoes, and freshly baked pies. The Johnson family was bustling about their home, preparing for their favorite holiday, Thanksgiving. This year promised to be special. They had family coming from out of town, and everyone was in high spirits. As the day progressed, laughter filled the air, mixed with the clattering of dishes and the hum of light conversation. Grandma Helen was in the kitchen, her hands expertly mixing her famous stuffing while sharing stories of Thanksgivings past with her grandchildren. Meanwhile, Uncle Dave was in charge of the turkey, carefully basting it to perfection. However, amid the warmth and joy, a subtle tension brewed in the background. For weeks, the family had been under stress. Financial struggles weighed heavily on them, and they were desperate for a perfect day to lift their spirits. But little did they know, disaster was lurking just around the corner. As the clock ticked closer to dinner time, Helen rushed to prepare the last dish, a rich gravy that complemented the turkey. In her haste, she accidentally turned on the wrong burner. Within moments, an unattended pot of oil heated to a dangerous temperature. Suddenly, a loud pop echoed through the kitchen, and flames erupted from the pot. Panic surged as Helen realized the flames were growing uncontrollably. She grabbed the nearest dish towel, attempting to smother the fire, but it only made things worse. Chaos erupted. Family members came rushing into the kitchen, eyes wide with horror as they saw the fire engulfing the stovetop. Shouts filled the air. "Get the kids outside! Call 911! The holiday cheer was instantly replaced with fear and confusion. As the fire spread rapidly, engulfing cabinets and nearby decorations, the family scrambled for safety. Dave attempted to grab the fire extinguisher, but his hands shook with adrenaline, and he struggled to find the pin. In the frenzy, Grandma Helen managed to usher the children outside, their small faces filled with terror. They huddled on the front lawn, watching as thick black smoke poured from the windows of their beloved home. The flames danced higher, and the once warm, inviting atmosphere of Thanksgiving turned into a nightmare. Moments later, the sound of sirens filled the air as firefighters arrived on the scene. The family stood in disbelief, frozen as they watched the flames consume their home. The firefighters worked quickly, battling the inferno, but the damage was severe. Hours passed, and as night fell, the reality set in. The house that had been filled with laughter and love was now a smoldering ruin. Thankfully, everyone had escaped unharmed, but the emotional scars were just beginning to show. Survivors stood together, arms wrapped around each other, faces stained with tears. They could hear the crackling of the fire as it devoured the remnants of their holiday, family photos, cherished heirlooms, and all their memories. In the days that followed, the Johnson family faced an uphill battle. The reality of losing their home sank in as they navigated through insurance claims and temporary housing. The trauma of that day lingered in their minds, and Thanksgiving would never feel the same again. The fire, which had started as a simple mistake, became a pivotal moment in their lives. Family members began to isolate themselves, grappling with survivor's guilt and haunting memories. The holiday that once brought them together now served as a painful reminder of their loss. Statistics show that Thanksgiving is one of the peak days for cooking-related fires, and the Johnsons were now part of that unfortunate statistic. According to the National Fire Protection Association, cooking equipment is the leading cause of home fires, and the risks are amplified during the holidays when families gather to cook large meals. In a bid to turn their tragedy into a lesson for others, the Johnson family decided to share their story. They began speaking at community events, educating others about kitchen safety and the importance of being vigilant while cooking. Their experience served as a powerful reminder that even a day meant for gratitude and togetherness can turn tragic in an instant. As they stood before audiences, they urged families to remember, cooking is the leading cause of home fires, so always be aware of your surroundings. Though the Johnsons would forever carry the scars of that day, they found strength in each other. They rebuilt their lives one step at a time, creating new memories while honoring the old. Thanksgiving, once a day of joy, became a day of reflection, a day to remember those they lost and to cherish the life lessons learned through their tragedy. In sharing their story, the Johnsons hope to inspire others to take kitchen safety seriously. After all, every family deserves to gather around the table without the shadow of disaster looming overhead. As you prepare for your own Thanksgiving celebrations, remember to stay vigilant in the kitchen. Keep an eye on your cooking, know your fire safety protocols, and above all, cherish the time spent with loved ones, because in the blink of an eye, everything can change. As we transition from the heart-wrenching tale of the Johnson family, we now move to our second story, a chilling encounter that reminds us of the dangers lurking in unexpected places. This is The Wrong Guest. It was Thanksgiving, a day typically filled with warmth, laughter, and the aroma of delicious food wafting through the air. For the Roberts family, this holiday was no different. They had planned an intimate gathering, inviting a few close friends and family members to share in the feast. Among the guests was a friend of a friend, Tom, who had recently relocated to the area. Although Tom was a newcomer to the circle, he came highly recommended by Sarah, the family's friend. Everyone was excited to meet him, eager to welcome him into their Thanksgiving celebration. The day began with bustling activity in the kitchen. Delicious scents enveloped the home as the family prepared dishes: golden brown turkey, creamy mashed potatoes, and Grandma's secret pumpkin pie. Laughter and chatter filled the air, creating a cozy atmosphere that was perfect for the holiday. As guests began to arrive, the Roberts family greeted them with open arms. However, when Tom entered, an unshakable tension filled the room. He was polite and charming, but there was something about him, an unsettling intensity that seemed to cast a shadow over the festive gathering. As dinner commenced, the family and friends exchanged stories, sharing laughter over the table. Yet, every so often, Tom's gaze would linger just a bit too long on one of the family members, particularly Emily, the youngest daughter. He seemed fascinated by her every word, his questions probing a little deeper than necessary. At first, the family dismissed it as mere curiosity, but as the evening wore on, Tom's behavior became increasingly strange. He shared too much about his past, detailing his life in a way that felt rehearsed and uncomfortable. The laughter around the table began to fade as unease settled in. "Do you ever feel like someone is watching you?" Tom suddenly asked, his eyes darting around the room. A silence fell over the table, and the family exchanged nervous glances. The tension escalated when Tom suggested a game, truth or dare. Everyone hesitated, but the mood had shifted to one of unease, and they reluctantly agreed. As the game progressed, Tom's dares grew darker and more intrusive, pushing the boundaries of comfort. When it was Emily's turn, Tom leaned in, a sly smile creeping across his face. "I dare you to share your biggest secret," he said, his voice dripping with a mix of challenge and menace. The room went quiet, and Emily's face turned pale. I don't have any secrets," she stammered, her heart racing. "Oh, come on," Tom pressed, leaning closer. "Everyone has something they're hiding." The atmosphere became charged with tension. Emily glanced at her parents, who exchanged worried looks. Tom's fixation on her was unsettling, and she felt trapped under his gaze. Just as she was about to excuse herself from the table, the doorbell rang, echoing through the tense air. Relief washed over the family as Sarah arrived, her smile brightening the room. "I hope I'm not too late," she chimed, oblivious to the tension. However, Tom's demeanor shifted immediately. His friendly facade cracked as he glared at Sarah. "You brought her?" he asked, his tone darkening. "What's wrong with that?" Sarah replied, her smile faltering. Tom's response was icy. "She doesn't belong here." Unease settled back into the room as Sarah approached the table, sensing the tension. "Is everything okay?" she asked, looking between Tom and the family. Before anyone could respond, Tom stood up abruptly, knocking over his chair. "I think it's time I left," he declared, his voice low and menacing. As he stormed out, the family members exchanged bewildered glances. What had started as a delightful gathering was quickly unraveling. With Tom gone, the atmosphere shifted back to normal. Sarah settled in, and the family began to share stories and laughter once more, relieved to have the tension lifted. However, deep down, they couldn't shake the feeling that something had gone terribly wrong. Later that night, as the guests began to leave, Emily stayed behind to help clean up. Just as she was about to head upstairs, a chilling sound echoed through the house, a soft knock at the door. She glanced at her parents, who were in the living room, and slowly approached the door, peering through the peephole. A silhouette stood outside, and her heart sank. It was Tom. "Emily, I know you're in there," he called out, his voice smooth yet threatening. "Let's talk." Panic surged through her as she backed away from the door, unsure of what to do. Her parents, hearing the commotion, rushed to her side. "Who is it?" her father asked, gripping the doorknob. "It's Tom! He's back!" Emily cried, her voice shaking. "Stay here," her father instructed, moving toward the door. He opened it slightly, peeking outside. "What do you want?" he demanded, trying to keep his voice steady. Tom's expression was unreadable. "I just want to apologize. Can I come in? I promise it won't be awkward." "Not a chance," her father replied firmly, closing the door slightly. Tom's demeanor shifted. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You don't know what I'm capable of." The family's heart raced, fear coursing through them. Her father quickly locked the door, and they all huddled together in the living room, breaths shallow and quick. They called the police, reporting Tom's unsettling behavior, and waited anxiously for help to arrive. As they did, the reality of the situation sank in. What if Tom had sinister intentions? Minutes felt like hours, and every sound outside sent them into a panic. Just when they thought they were safe, they heard a loud crash. Someone had thrown a rock through their back window, the sound shattering the tense silence. In that moment, terror gripped the family as they realized that this nightmare was far from over. They huddled together, waiting for the police to arrive, praying that they would be safe from the man who had turned their Thanksgiving into a nightmare. Eventually, the police arrived, and after assessing the situation, they advised the family to stay in a secure room until they could apprehend Tom. A sense of relief washed over them, but the fear lingered in the air like a thick fog. Hours later, the police apprehended Tom nearby, who had fled the scene. They assured the family they were safe now, but the psychological impact of the encounter would stay with them long after the incident. The Roberts family learned a valuable lesson that night, that even on a day meant for gratitude and togetherness, danger can lurk in unexpected places. They vowed to be more cautious and aware of their surroundings, knowing that trust is a fragile thing. Though they managed to find solace in one another, the memories of that Thanksgiving would haunt them for years to come. As we move forward from the unsettling encounter of our last story, let's delve into our third tale, a gripping account that illustrates how a holiday meant for celebration can quickly turn into a fight for survival. This is Thanksgiving Heist. Thanksgiving Day had finally arrived, and the Thompson family was buzzing with excitement. The aroma of roasting turkey wafted through their cozy suburban home, filling it with the warmth and comfort that the holiday brings. The dining table was adorned with colorful decorations, and the family had gathered to share in the joy of togetherness. This year was particularly special, as the Thompsons had invited their extended family and friends to celebrate. Laughter echoed through the halls as relatives arrived, each bringing a dish to contribute to the feast. The children dashed around the living room, their voices mingling with the sound of football games playing in the background. As the clock ticked closer to dinner time, Mr. Thompson, the father, took a moment to step outside to check on the grill, where he had started cooking some additional side dishes. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm glow over the neighborhood. Everything felt perfect, until, without warning, the tranquility shattered. A loud knock resounded at the front door. Mr. Thompson, who had just stepped back inside, looked at his wife, Sarah. She nodded, her brow furrowed with curiosity. "I'll get it," she said, moving toward the door. When she opened it, a masked man stood before her, flanked by two others who hurriedly pushed their way inside. Panic surged through Sarah as she stepped back, her heart racing. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice trembling. The intruder grinned menacingly, revealing a weapon in his hand. "We're here for your valuables. Don't make this harder than it has to be." Sarah's scream echoed through the house, but it was quickly drowned out by the chaos that ensued. The masked men rushed past her, storming into the living room where family members were still celebrating, completely unaware of the danger that had just entered their home. "Get on the ground," one of the intruders shouted, brandishing his weapon. The joyful chatter turned into terrified gasps as family members dropped to the floor, confusion and fear written on their faces. Mr. Thompson rushed forward, his instincts kicking in. "Get out of here," he shouted at his family, but the intruders were too quick. They shoved him aside, keeping everyone in check. "Just give us what we want, and no one will get hurt," another intruder barked, eyes darting around the room, assessing their captives. As the family huddled together, whispering frantic plans to escape, the intruders began ransacking the house. They tore through drawers, tossing belongings aside, looking for anything of value. The atmosphere was thick with tension, and the reality of the situation settled in. This was no longer a holiday. It was a nightmare. Mrs. Thompson, feeling a surge of determination, scanned the room for an opportunity. She caught her daughter's eye and gestured toward the kitchen. It was their best chance to escape. But just as they started to move, one of the intruders caught sight of them. "Where do you think you're going?" he shouted, lunging toward them. With a quick reflex, Mr. Thompson jumped between his family and the intruder, grappling with him in a desperate attempt to protect his loved ones. The struggle was chaotic. Furniture toppled over, and the sound of breaking glass filled the air. The other intruders turned their attention to the fight, and in that moment of distraction, Sarah seized the opportunity. "Run!" she shouted, and her family took off toward the back door, adrenaline propelling them forward. As they burst through the door into the backyard, the family made a mad dash for safety. They sprinted toward the fence, hearts pounding, fear pushing them faster than they thought possible. But just as they reached the edge of the yard, they heard shouting behind them. "Get back here!" one of the intruders yelled, and the family knew they didn't have much time. They scrambled over the fence and dashed into the neighbor's yard, hoping for a moment of safety. But the intruders were hot on their heels. Just as they reached the front porch of the neighbor's house, Mr. Thompson turned to see if they were still being pursued. Through the chaos, he spotted the masked figures emerging from their house, their eyes filled with anger and determination. "Call the police!" he yelled to his family, pushing them toward the door. Inside the neighbor's home, the family quickly explained the situation, their voices shaking as they relayed the terrifying events. The neighbor wasted no time and immediately called 911, while the Thompsons huddled together, praying for help to arrive before it was too late. In what felt like an eternity, sirens finally echoed through the neighborhood. The sound of police cars approaching brought a mix of relief and fear. The intruders realized they were running out of time and fled the scene just moments before the police arrived. The Thompsons stayed hidden in the neighbor's home, their hearts racing as they listened to the commotion outside. Officers flooded the area, searching for the suspects. When they were finally escorted back to their home, it was a scene of utter devastation. The aftermath of what had unfolded was overwhelming. In the days that followed, the Thompsons struggled to come to terms with the trauma of that Thanksgiving. While they were physically unharmed, the psychological scars ran deep. The home, once filled with laughter and warmth, felt like a haunting reminder of their near escape from danger. They decided to share their story, hoping to raise awareness about home invasions, particularly during the holidays when families are more vulnerable. The statistics were staggering. According to the FBI, home burglaries increase during Thanksgiving and Christmas as families gather, leaving their homes unattended for extended periods. By sharing their experience, they aim to help others understand the importance of security, especially during such joyous occasions. They emphasize the need for vigilance and preparation, reminding families to lock doors, secure windows, and never take their safety for granted. Though the Thompsons would never forget that harrowing night, they found strength in one another, their bond solidified by the adversity they faced together. Thanksgiving, once a day of celebration, transformed into a day of reflection, a reminder to cherish what truly matters: family, safety, and the love that binds them together. And with that, dear viewers, we conclude our journey through these 3 terrifying Thanksgiving stories. We hope you enjoyed them. We'll be back soon with more spine-tingling tales to keep you on the edge of your seat. If you liked this experience, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. And remember to share the scare with your friends. Horror is best enjoyed together. Until next time, stay safe and keep the lights on.